Hello, everybody. Welcome to Trusty's Vintage Deep Dive. Signing on a couple minutes early so we can welcome everyone who is joining us for tonight's deep dive on vintage an antique dominoes. So hopefully you all know why you're here. We've got Laura Bemos is joining us this evening to give us a deep dive, if you will, on her collection of dominoes and a little bit on the history of dominoes. And of course, we've got the live chat for everyone to ask questions. So let's kind of scroll through. We've got Hemlock Lady is here. Thanks for joining us. Amy Gaston, hello. Michelle at Mermaid Cove, got the West Coast represented. And then we also got Katie from Vintage and Vinyl, got the East Coast represented. Karen Radford's here. Sorry to hear about your air conditioning, Karen. I know mine is struggling to keep up. I noticed today, I'm like, kind of feeling a little warm in the house, and it was running, and it is running cold, but it's just struggling to keep up with this heat that we're all getting. So I hope you can get your air conditioning fixed. Teresa, thank you for joining us. Teresa Bryant. We've got Laura might have had a little bit of technical difficulty, but she'll be popping back on in a second. Corey, Thrifted Artist, great. Thank you for joining us tonight. Oh, hey, Blue Feather Mercantile. Always love another mercantile company. We can teach the world how to spell the word mercantile. And we got D from Thrill of the Thrift, and Sandy 4 from 4 Sandy's Lilacs. Carolyn Whitney, welcome. Carolina Princess, thanks for coming back. Karen's Vintage and More. Hello from Nevada. Are we from Las Vegas, Nevada, or are we from outskirts of Las Vegas? To me, Las Vegas or Nevada is Las Vegas and Laughlin. That's all I know. We've got one of the cats. Hey, Barb, how you doing? Thanks for joining us tonight. Little Vintage Me 64, great. Hey, Vintage Vinny. So we've got Vinny and Katie, two of my previous deep dive participants. If you are new to my channel and new to the concept of these deep dives, you can go back into my YouTube channel when this is over, and I've got a playlist of all the deep dives, and you can go in there and you can see my very first playlist, or my very first deep dive on the playlist was actually with Katie from Vintage and Vinyl, and that was on her typewriter ribbon tin collection. And then either second or third was Vintage Vinny, and he ended up talking about Coca-Cola trays. And I just asked Katie a question about typewriter tins today. And just recently I did a video and I was texting Vintage Vinny and Katie on the Coca-Cola trays. So I really do hope people find these deep dives and learn a little bit from them, and then kind of maybe even go back and look at them as you're in the wild and stumbling across items that represented from the deep dive. I'm sorry, I got a little distracted because Blue Feather Mercantile is one of the best stories ever. He learned how to spell the word mercantile from the Olsons on Little House. That is priceless. I didn't even remember that their store is called Mercantile. I don't know where Trusty Huckster Mercantile came from. I wanted something old fashioned to go with the Trusty Huckster. So Mercantile just kind of landed. And until I started trying to promote it, did I realize people had a problem spelling the word mercantile. They also had a problem spelling the word trusty, and they also have a problem spelling the word huckster. So I'm pretty much, in trouble all the way across the board. But you know what? I still like my name. I just got a new logo design that I'm hoping to do some merch on to celebrate my 1-year anniversary of having my online business, which is coming up in a couple of months. So you know what? I'll just teach people how to spell it. And until then, people will find me one way or another, like Fern's finds. I think Fern might be new tonight. So thank you for joining us. Cindy Lou Who's Thrifted. I recognize that name. Rachel from Superior Girl. Fantastic. All right. Apologize. We're not going to scroll through everybody. But thank you so much. I will say, because I just saw Kelly from Moss Stone Story popped on. We will have another deep dive. Actually, the next deep dive that I will be doing will be in August, and that's with Kelly from Moss Stone Story Vintage, and she will be doing the Little Golden Books will be the deep dive, the first deep dive in August. So thank you all for joining me tonight, and I hope you all, if you are familiar with the live sale trends that have been going on, you recognize the name of my guest, Laura Bemos. So we've got Laura here, and she also has Mercantile in her name. She is on Instagram. She does not have a YouTube channel, but you can follow her on Instagram at Bemos_Mercantile. And she came onto my radar for a deep dive actually in one of my sales. We were there was a chat going on. I was distracted because I let my huckster helper follow on the chat. And so I got this little note from my huckster helper that said, Laura Bemos collects dominoes, games, and something else. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that information? And she said, well, maybe that'd be good for a deep dive. And then it turns out what Lori was really saying, it was one of my first sales, that she was saying, hey, that's the type of stuff I like. So if you ever have it, that's what you were shopping for. But I didn't know that. So it turned into, hey, do you want to do a deep dive on one of them? And we kind of went back and forth and figured out what was the best thing that would work within this format. And we landed on dominoes. So I'm going to introduce Laura Bemos of Bemos Mercantile, or more importantly, from all the live chats. And go ahead and introduce yourself, Laura.
Hi, you guys know me by now. I think I'm on every live. I'm Laura Bemos. I collect dominoes, playing cards, and dice. Also, because of Patrick, I guess now hat pins. And Kokeshi dolls. But we're here tonight for dominoes. So, I'm going to go over the dominoes of today, what they're constructed of, and then I will go into some history on dominoes, and then at the end I will show you some really old dominoes. So, the European construction of dominoes is usually, it could be bone, it could be ivory, it could be a dark wood, it could be ebony. They also are made of marble, granite, soapstone, redwood, cedar. There's also metals like brass and pewter, ceramic clay, and frosted glass. So there's several things that they can be made out of, even crystal. I've actually seen a crystal domino set. But currently, in today's time, you're going to find an ABS or Bakelite or any type of phenolic resin. So also the thing that came up between Patrick and I is about people didn't understand what these sets, like this one says double 12. Double 12 is going to be the highest number in this set. So a double 12 is your highest. So that means that there should be 90, what is it? 91 tiles, which are all here. Although I'm quite excited with this set when I got it, because it looks like somebody had ran over part of the tile.
Can you pull out one of the tiles and show the double 12?
Right there. Can you see that tile? Those are what, and these are a phenolic resin.
If I was counting the dots, how many? That looked like only 11 dots on each side.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have the double 12 up.
Oh, I thought you were throwing us for a test there. I'm like, no. Wait, so it's a trick question. It's a double 12, but there are only 11 dots. Okay, so there is something in there that has 12 dots.
There you go.
Okay.
12 dots.
Now that looks like 11 again.
The one side.
Because so the 12 refers to the dots on one side of the domino.
Yes.
Okay.
The 12 is your highest number on the of the pips. They're called pips. They're called daubs. Usually people refer to them as pips.
And so I think we were talking a little bit before we got started that one of the sets that I had was called double 6. And I didn't realize there were different sets out there. So this one, ignore the bottom. So the double 6. So there's 6 is the highest. And you said if there's 6 dots, that one gives you, what was it? 28.
Yes.
Which this one, so this was the set that I had.
Right.
So we were trying to date this one based on the directions that came inside of it. And this goes for any sort of vintage item. If you don't know when it was made, you can always look at who produced it And if you see a zip code of like a traditional zip code with 5 digits, it means it's after 1963. If you see a zip code like you have here with Chicago 45, they introduced 1 and 2 digit zip codes in after the war, so late 40s and into the 50s. Only major cities had them. So you run the risk if it's a small city or just a town, it wouldn't have a zip code. But that doesn't mean it's earlier than the war. But if you've got a town like Chicago, 2 digits. So this is a 40s to 50s piece.
Right.
And then on the side of it, you've got it says 66, but then it also says it's supposed to have 28 pieces.
Yeah.
But this is the only one that I have that actually says that. So
yeah, most don't.
Okay, so the one that you found with the double 12s, that's a much bigger box.
Yeah, it simply says double 12, and you basically have to know what that means and how many tiles should be in there. People hate me when I buy dominoes because I send them a million questions. The problem with dominoes is there's no book to tell you about collecting or what or when anything was made. There's absolutely no reference whatsoever. So it's really hard. I have had to do stuff like figure out what the company was that made them and go back through and search that company to see when they were making dominoes and what they were putting out. So it's not an easy job because there's just no standard out there for, you can't grab a book, like even playing cards that I collect. I have 3 books on playing cards, but there's nothing on dominoes. So it's kind of a lot of work. You're basically going to have 2 types of collectors. One being somebody like me who collects, I want the full set, and I want to know when they were made and how many tiles should be in there and that they're a complete set, because a partial set does me no good. The other thing that there's a lot of people who would collect them strictly for advertisement, like, and the graphics. Like this is basically a current. These are 2 current sets right here. They're by the same company. One is red, one is blue. The difference in those, and these are double 9s, okay? So the difference in these is this is from the red box. Okay? You see it's black and white. Now let me show you one from the blue box. Remember, same company. This is from the blue box. And hopefully you guys can see.
Oh, that's cool.
Colored. The reason that you have colored dots, or the reason that they started with colored dots, is for people who were illiterate. Because back then you had a lot of, especially the boys in the family going out to get jobs. They may or may not have had schooling. And it's also for kids. You match the color. They can match colors instead of numbers.
Now, before we get into the different images that it can also show on the color, that's actually really interesting about the matching the colors. I want to circle back, since the first one you showed was the double 12. You just mentioned the one with the double 9.
Right.
Mine, actually, from when you showed it really quickly, it actually looked like the text on the side, these were from the same company. Mine's the double 6.
Right.
Nate is from New Zealand, is commenting that he's just never seen any above 6, and there's a lot of people agreeing with him. Right. Are the older ones the higher numbers? Like, at what point do you see the different numbers?
Well, I can tell you that the higher sets started right around this time, which is going to be 50s, 60s. I have never seen a set that is older that has more than the 6, which is what most people know dominoes to be. So anything that I show you, like here, I have another one here. This is also from, this one here is the double 9, which is like the ones I just showed you. And this one says on here how many dominoes, 55. Should be in this case. But let me show you this, because this is interesting. We just talked about the colors and how kids can match them. However, when you look at these dominoes, let Let me see if I can get you guys to see this. You see red and black, and that red is a 4. Well, look at this one. This is both red. I don't know how it's showing up, but they're both red, and that's a 2 and a 4. So this set of dominoes, even though they have colors on them, they're not made for that. They're not made for matching or for something. They just put color in there because they thought it was cool. Basically. But this is also from like 50s, 60s.
Now, how would you know from something like that? So if it's not specifically designed to be the color one, I think I remember seeing one of the sets in your collection that actually specifically said, hey, great for kids that can't count. Right. Or whatever. So if you have a set like that and you see that there's different colors, how would you know that it's not maybe a merging of 2 different sets, that they lost some?
Yeah, you don't know. And that's part of the problem. Because most dominoes don't have anything on the back, especially these that are like the phenolic resin or the ABS. There's nothing on the back of them. Now you'll see, I think you have a set, Patrick, where you have something on the back of your dominoes. And I believe you told me it was the Capitol building?
Yes. So yeah, the set that I had just shown, that was from the same manufacturer. So what they ended up doing was they molded the Capitol dome onto the back. So it matched the theme of Capitol dominoes. So this was when I was making the assumption, because of the zip code is after the war 50s. It's kind of that post-war, we won the war, we'll do this. And you ended up having everything was a very, very patriotic.
The other thing that you can find is the dominoes. Some of them will have stuff on the back. Some of it could be advertisement. I saw a set on eBay that had an advertisement for an optician on the back of the domino. And then you have, like, some of them will have dragons on the back, like this set that I showed you. This company is Howsam. That's what company makes these. And on the back of these dominoes is a dragon.
Now, when I was looking for, as we were prepping for this, because this is definitely an area that I knew nothing about. So basically all of my questions are completely legit because I know nothing about dominoes. But when I was trying to find some examples to have on my own side of the show and tell, I found that dragon dominoes thing quite a bit. So is that a thing, or is that just were they really prolific that there were just a lot of them out there? Because they seem to cross over multiple manufacturers.
Right. And the reason that their dominoes have dragons on the back is to pay homage to where it started, and that's China. So you have a lot of sets that have dominoes, that have dragons on the back of the dominoes. But it's usually the black ones that have some type of advertisement or something on the back. So I think this set right here, this one is one that you had to do some digging for. This says USA Dominoes. Okay. This is by the embossing company. Now, there are the rules. Boy, do they look old. Because they are. Here's the domino. Now, this set has a lot of, it shows a lot of wear. But on the back of this one is the American flag. So, this set right here is the other thing that how I figured out what time frame it's from, is the flag on the back actually only has 48 stars.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So that was one of the ways to date this set. I also looked up the company, which is the embossing company. Now, the embossing company made a lot of different dominoes. So you will see that company out there quite a bit.
Now, would that be the type of company, when you mentioned the advertising, would a company actually go out and have them manufactured specifically for them, or would a company like the embossing company just make, thousands of blanks, and then you bought and got your name printed on the back.
No, they would do special sets for advertising whatever they were going to have. Like I said, the one set that I had Trishan's information on it, advertisement, was actually an ABS set, which is like the phenolic resin that I showed you, and that it was actually one of those sets, which is really unusual because most of those sets are blank on the back. Okay, now
you said ABS. What does that stand for?
It's the polyurethane, polyplastic.
Oh, okay.
Now here, I think this is the one you were referring to that said kids, about kids.
Right.
Yeah. And this is one set where you can match. Now this set was made by, nobody knows. No, Spears Games. So that's one of the ones. These are actually made in England. They are wood dominoes, and they appear to be from like the 1960s, because that's when the company was in business.
Is there kind of a rule of thumb of when the material started changing? Like, I'm assuming anything now would be some form of a plastic, but at
Right.
what point did things start changing over?
You'll see that right around the 50s and 60s. Because you'll see that my newer sets are the polyurethane, the bake, and I do have some Bakelite here, and those are actually right around the 30s. And then you have the plastics companies came in with their resins and their polyurethane plastics and stuff, and that was 50s and 60s when you start seeing it. And here's another set. This is by Howsam, which we looked at the double nines. And this set is actually going to be wood, and it's from the 50s. And the reason I was able to say that is because if you look, I don't know if you guys can see this, but right down in this corner, you're going to see the set number, which in this one is 622. So if you look up Howsam and the number 622, that'll give you an approximation of when they were making that set.
Now, for the ones that switched over to, or that used primarily the plastic hit into the 50s, what was, and maybe they didn't exist at the time, but what was happening around in the war era? Like, I was assuming that there was a lot of limitations on resources. Is that where wood ones were more popular?
Yeah, well, in China, they actually started with cards, like playing cards. Now, I wish I had the set here to show you guys, but every time I order this set, they tell me they can't find it, which is really irritating me. But Congress, which makes playing cards, they're actually my favorite playing cards. They also made a Dominoes card set, which some people will say was the original Dominoes. It was actually cards. That's how they were able to carry it around so easily. Because most of these sets are pretty bulky. They're not something you can just slip in a pocket.
We had a question that came in from Karen Dondelinger. She's referring to a specific, I guess, type of domino. I'm assuming a Gallant Knight original, saying that hers are 20 years old.
Gallant Knight, is that a company? It's possibly a company.
Yeah, is that a style of a game, or is that the manufacturer, Karen?
Right, because now all the countries have different games played with dominoes, and we will discuss that. Now here is, you see this case right here? This is an actual dominoes case. This one right here is from the 1920s. When you open it up, this was handmade by somebody. And the reason I know that is because right here, this little ticket says If you have any occasion to complain about this box, send this ticket back. So this was custom made for somebody. Now on the back of these, let me get one out of here. They're just blank, but I don't know if you can see that. There's that center one is like a pin, and right here on the front, this has a pin in it. Those were done in the 20s in wood. And that pin is what they used to refer to as a spinner. And because it sits up, people used to spin them on the tables because this comes out just a little bit from the domino. Like a fidget. What were those things that the kids, fidget spinners? Yeah, the original one, right here.
Now, for something like for the box, is there such a thing as boxes that are made specifically to hold the dominoes?
Yes.
Or at what point did it just become, here's the cardboard box, we're going to sell it to you in, and you just store it in the box?
You will see in the 20s, people made, I'm looking over here at what I have. People had boxes made. And also backwards, you have boxes made. Now, I don't know, I'm trying to think years here. I have three that have custom boxes. This one, we'll talk about the other one, which is in the 1800s, and I have one even older than that. But the custom boxes were specifically made right around that. And why, I don't know. Maybe they didn't come in cardboard. I have no idea. But here's one for Katie. This is actually a sewing tin that they've made into a Domino's box. But the good thing is, they left this in there for me, which was the original box. And they're called Black Beauties. Now again, these are wood dominoes. I'm trying to figure out what this thing is on the back. They are bumblebees on the back. But they actually took a sewing tin and made it a domino's box.
And speaking of Katie, she had a question when you were referring to that other style that had the little spinner on it. Mm-hmm. Was there a purpose of spinning, or was that just because people were bored and they?
Yeah.
So it was like a fidget spinner.
Bored playing a dominoes like every other thing.
Okay.
It was a gambling game. Still is. Nowadays, most domino players, I think the biggest collection of domino players is in the southern U.S. And then the Caribbean is very big. Latin America is very big. South America, it's all very big. It's fallen off here in the States, except for, like I said, in the southern regions, like Miami or Louisiana. And I think it's because they have an influence of Caribbean players. But that's a guess. Now, we talked about Bakelite. I have 3 Bakelite sets here. These are all going to be 1930s. This one, that's that lovely Bakelite original color. So, and those came in this kind of box, which nothing on it.
Now, this goes into a question. Can you show that Bakelite one again? This goes into just a general, I am not knowledgeable on Bakelite specifically, but I remember getting, it was long before my channel or anything, but doing listening to an interview on Bakelite, and they kept showing red, white, and blue items, that, the patriotic items, and all of the white looked like that. Yeah. And he said because at the time it was made, it looked white.
Bakelite is the original color, which is yellowish.
So that one it started as yellow. That one did not start as white. Okay.
Right. And then you'll see, I don't have a blue set. Blue sets are hard to come by.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are they harder to make, or why do you think that is?
I don't know. But the blue set, for whatever reason, it's harder to find. Now you'll see here I have a red Bakelite.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And this one came, the box that it's in is this. It's like a plastic box. And they all fit in here nice and neat. I don't want to chip too far. But this set has, you'll see Texas 42. That's a type of game. Okay. So this one is the red. And then the other color I have.
So I find that interesting. So they're using Bakelite for the material for the dominoes, but they're using a regular plastic for the box because that had a zip code on it. So it's after the war. Yeah. And so like I didn't realize they were still using Bakelite into the 50s.
Yeah. And here's the green.
Did you say that's green?
Green, yeah.
Oh, just saw it. Yeah, with the light. That's cool.
Yeah, it's green. Like a hunter green. Yeah. And then, like I said, they have a blue set, which I haven't gotten a hold of. But yeah, they're in these plastic, containers. This one didn't have any rules with it. But the company that made these is, I don't know if you can see it on there, it's Cardinal. In the center here.
Yep, you can see it.
Yeah. So that's the company that made those. I'd like to get into some of the history because it's kind of interesting. So, Dominoes was from China. And it dates back to the Song Dynasty. So, really, really old. Because the Song Dynasty was from 1232 to 1298. And so that's where it started from. And the reason that it spread, as far as what I can find history-wise, is the Italian missionaries took the game from China back to Italy. Italy was the second place that you hear of dominoes. So initially it was China. You had missionaries that went over to China. The Chinese missionaries would go to Italy, and they just kind of brought the game with them. And the reason they call, supposed reason that they call it domino is it's a homage to a Carnival costume in Venetian, and those costumes are black hooded robes with white masks. So that's where they seem to think the word domino came from. So since
and what era are we in with the Italian missionaries going to China?
That is going to be in the same era of when it started, not too long after. So we're going to look at probably the 1800s at that point. The Song Dynasty is, like I said, that's where it started. And then it carried over. They were confused in the history because a lot of the older Chinese writings speak of Pupai. Pupai became this, which are the little dots. Okay, so if I say Pupai, it's just the dots. Now, they took it over to Italy, and because of language barriers and stuff, of course it didn't flush out in translation. And then China has their own dominoes games. And then they started in Italy, and then they spread throughout Europe. Then they went to the Caribbean, and we took it there where the plantation owners from Europe went down to the Caribbean, and they would show the game. The slaves that were down there then started making their own dominoes. And those dominoes consisted of wood, which we see a lot, and they would burn the pixel. Okay. So that's where we started.
Now, one question that I was trying to scroll and find, but since you mentioned it, or you mentioned that they had their own, China had their own version of dominoes. Is there any correlation between dominoes and Mahjong? Is there an actual formal relationship between the two?
There's actually two relationships in there.
Okay.
It's Mahjong is one of the Chinese games. The other one is Paigao. And I have sets of each of those down here that I'll show. So give me a second, because these are heavy. This one here is from the Mandalay Bay. Comes in a case like this. This was used at Mandalay Bay. They only use it once. When the dealer is done with it, it gets transferred out. Okay. This is what a domino looks like in China. Very different than what we're used to. No line in the center. These are a lot longer. So I have an entire set of Paigao, which is played in casinos. I'm sure if anybody's been to Las Vegas, you walk by a Paigao table. This is what they're doing.
How do you spell that? I'm not familiar with that term.
Paigao. It's P-A-I and then G-O-W. Paigao.
And so they retire out the tile sets just like they do the decks of cards in Las Vegas? Okay.
So, you asked about Mahjong. I have the Mahjong set here, which is, I got this from the guy that carried it back from Hong Kong. These have never been used. I'm going to try and let you guys see without falling. Those are all being down up the wrong side. But see the green on back. And you'll see how small these are. And this is the Mahjong set. Now, that game that you play on your phone, that's not how you really play it.
That's the only version I know.
Yeah, I know. It's the only version most people know. But that's not how you play it. You'll see right here, there are little dice in here. So it also incorporates dice. It's very, very different from our game. And the rules are at the bottom in here.
There's a comment that just came in from Barb JM that those are small.
They are.
Is there a standard size? Like you showed the difference between the Domino and the Paigao set. Is there a standard for a Mahjong set?
This is.
Okay, that is the standard. I've seen them before, and I thought they all were that size. So, but they're just significantly smaller than Dominoes.
Yeah. But I think, let me check it. I think that they're thicker. They feel thicker. Let's see. Oh yeah, they're almost double thickness.
Okay.
This set and then this set, this set's a lot thicker. So they're not as long, but they are thicker than a standard domino. And
which do you know in history which came first, Mahjong, Paigao, or Dominoes?
Paigao.
Paigao first?
Dominoes first. That was, well, you know what? You can't even really say that because dominoes in China, if you talk about cards, that is, to them, that is dominoes, that is cards, that is dice. And then you specify from where. They kind of do a catch-all category of cards. But now, let me show you the smallest set I have. Okay. This box right here is actually an entire set of dominoes.
Wow.
Okay. This is the domino. Look how thin that is. They were advertised as being made of ivory. I don't think so. I think it's bone. This was the initial set that George sent me down the rabbit hole for. Because I saw this set on eBay, but it listed it as ivory. And I wasn't sure on the ivory whether or not they could actually sell it or not. And George told me that it was probably bone. And now that I have it, yeah. And ivory, you can buy and sell ivory. However, you would have to be able to prove that it was done before, what I tell you, January 19th, 1990. And you also have to prove that it was sourced in a humane way. But you also have to really watch your state regulations. There are tons of states that don't allow the purchase or selling of ivory. So not only do you have to comply to federal, you have to apply to state regulations. That's my tiniest set. Now I'm going to show you this set of dominoes just because it looks different. You see how long this box is? This is by the embossing company, which also made some of the other ones. These are basically, I don't think they were ever played.
Is that a double 9 set?
Yes, this is the double 9. And this is from 1910. This one, on the back of it, has, I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, it has a train, just like the outside of the box. So, these, what they call the train games, those are mainly played in Mexico, South America. And they have their own rules to train. There are several train games. They all have their own rules. Now, Patrick, you had that optician's box.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a box just like it. The only difference is this is stamped dominoes on the top. It slides open. This was another custom box for these dominoes. And they were originally this. Okay. And this is from it's the embossing company again. The backs of these have absolutely nothing on it. I don't know if you guys can see this. But
It's kind of texture.
It looks like pips on the back. And you're just seeing those through here. Because here's the front. Okay. So they did all kinds of custom boxes. You can tell that it's probably somebody who played with them almost a lot. They wanted a more secure way of taking them instead of these cardboard boxes which get ruined all the time. Now, this set is interesting. This set, you guys read that?
Oh, cool box.
Huh?
Very cool box.
Yeah. They're called quarter dominoes. Again, by the embossing company. Now, these look way different. These look like this. They are wood. They are not the standard black. And they have red pips on them. Now these, I know where these came from because of a patent. And the patent is written right up here in this corner. Okay? So the original patent was 1869. They revised it in 1874 and 1875 and 1884. So, and that's what I could find from the embossing company. These are from that period. And this box is actually pretty good condition.
And that leads me to one of the questions is, so comparing some of the timelines you've given, like the one set from the teens, is it necessarily that the older the set, the more valuable it is? Or what do you feel, for what people would run into out in the wild, what do you feel is the biggest connection of value?
Well, obviously the older you get, the better chance you have of it being valuable. However, it also has to be in good condition. Some of these sets most of the sets I have are in really good condition. There's a couple that are rough.
Is there any value to an incomplete set?
No, and that is because I'm telling you, they hate me when I'm getting ready to buy something, because if they don't have the year that it's from, and they can't prove to me the year that they state, because believe me, they come up with their own crap. Seriously. So give me the date. You gotta tell me that it's a complete set. And that means all the dominoes match. That doesn't mean you were short 5, so you took them from another box. Oh, they look the same, no problem. No, because the backs of the dominoes probably aren't going to be the same.
And I just entered into the chat the list that you gave me earlier, so that everyone knows how many pieces, how many tiles are in each type of set, which I didn't even know that concept existed. So for those of you who would be interested, just scroll back a little bit in the chat. I just entered it a couple minutes ago. So that gives the breakdown. So you do know what is considered a complete or incomplete set. One of the things that we talked about earlier with between Laura and I is I had picked up a set, and it's this set it's a big wooden set from, again, between the 40s and the 60s, because it has the Playforms address on it with the zip code. But you can kind of see when I hold it up that way how big this bag is, but the actual number of tiles, or the tiles are only like half of the bag. So I think what I literally have, although the individual tiles are massive, they're, obviously kind of a cutesy thing. I don't have a complete set. So, this ends up being, if you want something that looks really cool in a vignette, this would be a great set. But beyond that, there would really be very few games. Like even, as Nicole said, even lining these up to knock them down, there's only like 14.
Right.
So you wouldn't have a very long train to knock over. Right. So it's still a cool set, right, I think, but it's just from a value standpoint, since you mentioned that, we have an incomplete one.
And you have to decide what kind of collector you're going to be. Are you going to be the kind that wants it for the advertisement and the cool graphics on the boxes? Because then who cares? If that's what you're in it for, it doesn't really matter whether it's complete or not. Somebody like me, I want the complete set.
Now, what would you say, are you, don't take this the wrong way, are you normal? What would be the typical, what's the typical buyer? So if someone is out there, I know that just looking at who's on the chat right now, there's a lot of resellers. Right. So somebody like me, I mean, I can show, this is a set that I picked up, again, specifically for this interview. I knew when I picked it up, there's a space missing here. But to me, these are extremely cool because it's a German set. Let's switch to full screen here. So it's a German set. So it's got the German language on there, which, if you've watched my channels before, that's a big thing in my household. So we've got the German set. It's actually German street signs. So we're moving away from the pips. And that was actually a question I was going to transition into. But it's like, to me, it kind of reminds me of Millsborn, which as a kid, I never understood the language. That card game I played all the time. but it just had everything in a foreign language, so that you can see the German text in the middle of these. This is not a complete set, but as we discovered, even if this one tile were here, it still would have only been 24. So right. Without getting into the double sixes, double nines, are there more, I guess my question would be, are there more collectors who are trying to buy them because it's a cool looking box? Or are there more collectors like you who are looking for building a pristine collection?
What I see on eBay is people are targeting people who want the collection for the graphics, the cool box, because that's usually, if you look on eBay and you look at the term, you look at what people are listing, they'll say, really cool graphics from 1910, like that, wherever that set went that I just showed you, the big long train set. And this is exactly how it was advertised. Advertised as cool graphics. Well, that's nice, but I don't want it for the graphics. I mean, yeah, the graphics are cool. It's a train. Right? But, so then, I have this list of questions that I send them, and they all get very frustrated with me. So I would say there are more collectors that do it for the graphics.
And is there an era then? Is it like just like anything else that then the graphics that are of the style du jour, so like the mid-century modern, or is that what dictates it, or then do we get into the age again? So I know
No, it's going to be. Well, every company had their own graphics. So, but you see, the embossing company was a huge manufacturer of dominoes, and they have a million different types. So, and then you have Halcyon, who does dragons on the back of their dominoes. I've never seen anything but dragons on the back of their dominoes. So it really depends on the company and what kind of box they put out, because you saw the Bakelite box. It has nothing on it except for, it says Cardinal in the center, and it's a plastic box.
Is there a value in the boxes themselves, particularly if you're looking at the graphics?
There could be.
Okay. Obviously not to you.
For the graphics, I would definitely make sure the box is in good condition. Where I'm not as worried about the box, I just want to make sure it's the whole set. And that it's a true set. And not something they made up. You'll see the last set that I'm going to show you is the best set of all. But let me say that time period, they didn't come in cardboard boxes. There's no way they could have. I'm not sure that they had cardboard back then. So, I'm going to show you one other set here real quick first, because this one's really cool. Can you guys see that? I don't know if you can see.
Oh, we've gone down under Australia. Not New Zealand, sorry, Nate, but we got Australia.
And this over here is Red Cross. This is an actual set that was manufactured in Australia specifically for the Red Cross. So this set is somewhere between 1914 and 1920. That's the closest I could come, because I was looking up the Australian Red Cross. These are plastic. On the box it even says plastic molded. These are plastic. It's got nothing on the back, just blank. And these have an indent all the way around. They have like a ridge all the way around them. It's the only time I've ever seen them. Most dominoes are flat, and this one actually has the ridge around it. So it's interesting because it was made for the Red Cross. So you would assume that would be World War I. So they took the dominoes and had them. My guess is the medics had them, and the obviously the Red Cross, try and give people games, something to do. Now, do you guys have any other questions before I show you the
Yeah, because, and this will probably lead into what you're going to show us. Well, the first one would be, this came from Fatbird Finds, that was talking about, because we were talking about the different manufacturers, and then you talked about the advertising. What would you say in your experience is a brand to be on the lookout for, or what's the most scarce brand? Like, what would we find in the wild that we should be keeping our eyes open for?
You're going to find a lot of the embossing company and a lot of Halcyon. Those are going to be your two main companies. The other companies are going to be these small companies that probably weren't in business for very long. Like this set of dominoes right here, I cannot find anything on it. Nothing. Because this box has no company on it, no year, no nothing. The only thing it has is right over here. Whoops, wrong side. Right here. It's a little girl with, I think, a cat. And in her hand, she has some type of stick that she looks like she's getting ready to beat the cat with. Go figure. But these dominoes are definitely wood. Okay? They, on the back of them, they have some scroll work. It's not a train, it's not a flag, it's just pretty scroll. But I cannot honestly date these. I can guess that they're from the 1914 to 1920. But try and do research on something you have no information on. And I've tried to research even putting the, a box, dominoes with a box with a little girl. I can't come up with anything. So that set is best guess.
Another question we had, which of course just jumped the screen as I tried to pull it up. Why are they called pips? That came from Katie.
Okay. Originally they were called pupai. That's the Chinese term. When it was translated over, the Europeans called them pips. Probably some of that language barrier. But it is, pupai is the proper term.
Interesting.
The European term would be pips.
Okay. Related to that, you just mentioned the European term. Again, the one set that I have is manufactured in Germany. Now this one, mine cheated because I'm going to assume it is correct. There's actually a date on the back from the original owner, I'm assuming, and it was from 1966. Are American-made dominoes necessarily more valuable or more desirable than European or Asian-made, or is there any rule of thumb on that?
Let me show you something. Oh, did I throw it on the floor? I might have. Okay, there is a supposedly buying guide out there. And that guide actually talks about what you would see today. And it's not a buying guide that, oh, this is what I can go look for and collect. No, they are talking about the dominoes today, how they're made, and what is the best domino based on. And there are several different sets, because I'm going to go back to this set right here, which was that 955 domino set that had all the weird colors but weren't matching. This set right here is going to be in that top buying guide. The other thing that's in that top buying guide, and it's because it's called a professional set. It says that right there.
Are the double nines, does that get into the value too? Is a double nine more valuable than a double six, or does that really matter?
I don't think it matters, because the older ones, you're not going to find the double nines, the double 12s, or anything like that, because it was a standard 28 set.
When did the 9s, 12s, 21s, when did those come into play?
Those came into play, I would say that they came into play when they hit Latin America or the Caribbean, because they were playing with more players. Okay, so the extended sets are for that. They're for more players. You're not going to have 253 dominoes and 2 people playing the game. Just not going to happen. Take you forever.
Gotcha.
You need a lot of space.
We've had one of the questions that is, there's 2 of them are related. The one I can find right now is Randy's, is there a holy grail of dominoes? And then related to that, there were a couple of questions earlier about the most expensive ones to find, or, you know, what would be considered in the wild, like a super great find or a super valuable find.
There are 2 sets. Okay, I'll go with the first one. There's one set out there that I really thought was my holy grail. And I am so mad at that guy. I can't even stand to look at his ads anymore. He has a set of Civil War dominoes. They have the date, they have who they belong to, everything. He refuses to sell that set as a whole. He is piecing out 1 domino at a time. His price started at $75 per domino. You're only allowed to buy 1, and he will give you a certificate of authenticity. Who is he to be giving me a certificate of authenticity? No, I want the whole damn set. I'm not paying $75 for 1 domino. Are you crazy? But he irritates me because he's down to, I think the last I saw, he was down to $15 a domino. So obviously he hasn't been selling very much. Now, this set is my holy grail because I'll show you the box.
Oh, wow.
Okay. This set is from, should I tell you? This set is from the Qing Dynasty, which is 1644 to 1912. Okay. I was pretty sure right here is the year. This is the year right over here. This right here is actually a poem. Well, not a poem, but kind of a saying. And I've had it translated. A guy that I played pool with is from China. He about blew a stack when I pulled this out of my bag. This side says, with the love of a beautiful woman. This side is the year, which is 1644 to 1912. Now, open it up for you. These are the rules up here. These are the actual dominoes. These are wood. They're very thin compared to a current domino. Okay? And the instructions, they're on this very, very fragile rice paper. And they are in English and Chinese. So this, by far, is the best set that I have. And if you look, that's where I took off the rules. Those are all Chinese characters.
So is that a wooden box?
Yes, it is a wooden box. This box was specifically made for the Ming Dynasty. That's why it specifically says Ming Dynasty on here. My buddy that plays on my pool team, he even questions whether these were stolen from the Ming Dynasty because of how much is on here. I paid $5 for this set.
Wow.
And I had had such a bad experience with those. I told you the cards that everybody can't seem to find once I buy them. I was so afraid that they were going to do that with this because obviously they had no idea what they had. And they just advertised it as a vintage set of dominoes. But when I bought it, after supposedly it was shipped, I hadn't gotten it, so I texted her or I messaged her through eBay, and I said, "Is there a problem? I haven't received this yet." And she was like, "Oh, I forgot all about it. Yeah, I'll get it out." So then time went by, and I once again sent her a message. What's going on? I still haven't received it. Has it been shipped? And she was like, "Yeah, my husband shipped it for me." Then she messaged me back saying, "Well, he forgot. They were under the seat. I can just refund you." And I said, no, just go ahead and send them. That's fine. So finally, I got it. It took me 2 months, but I got it. And I'm glad that I worked for a Chinese Taiwanese company. So I was pretty sure I was translating the year right on here. I wasn't totally positive. I was hoping I was right. Turns out I was. So yeah, $5. And you'll see that it has the gold. This in the center is actually the crest or emblem for the Ming Dynasty. For the Qing Dynasty, I'm sorry. Qing Dynasty. Qing is Q-U-I-N-G. In case you want to look it up. The Q is C-H. Any other questions?
Well, I've got some passive-aggressive people in the chat saying that I'm missing their questions. So I'm scrolling backwards, trying to figure out what I missed.
Is one of those Hemlock lady?
No, actually, I don't believe so. So I'm scrolling backwards, trying to find any questions at this point that I have already missed. The Michelle from Mermaid Cove. I thought I had one of your questions earlier. Thrift You, I can't. If you guys want to repost your questions, this was one of the questions that came in. Was have you had that box appraised, the one you paid $5 for?
No, and I really don't know. I mean, it would have to be a specialty appraiser that was knowledgeable about the Qing Dynasty. I just got these 3 weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago, yeah. Because we've been off pool again for 2. So yeah, it was the last night that we were playing pool, which was 3 weeks ago. And I pulled it out of my backpack because I had gotten it just before I left the pool. So I threw it into my backpack and I'm like, okay, Eddie, who's the guy that is on my team, I took it out and he said, "Can I see that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I brought it to you to translate for me." And he was like, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "Well, I'm pretty sure." I said, "Is the year right? 1644? He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, then it would be Qing Dynasty, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I can't believe you have this. You better never give it away."
Do you have an estimate, as Fatbird Finds is asking, do you have an estimate of what it would be worth? I know you said you didn't have it appraised, but based on your other purchasing, are we in the hundreds?
More than $5.
Are we in the hundreds or are we in the thousands?
I really don't know because I don't see anybody out there who has knowledge of what dominoes are worth. So just because I'm collecting these and I can tell when some of them, when the years are based on either zip codes or no zip codes, or whether they have nothing on them, or if they have, like the American set that had 48 stars. There's another set out there on eBay right now, and I believe said it had 38 stars on the American flag. So it's really, really hard there because there are no books. How are you going to figure out how much these things are worth? I mean, I have no idea. I collect them because I love dominoes. But I do want the set to be complete. I'm not collecting them for cool pictures. And here, show you on the back of this box. This is the bottom side of the box.
You can collect it for cool pictures because that's a pretty awesome box.
Yeah.
So the last question, because we're already a little over than what I'd wanted to do, but this has been a great deep dive. And I will just say, Thrift, you were the last question I was going to ask. I just didn't know it was yours. So just thank you for typing it again. And that's really is because as a lot of the people who are looking for these, as we're talking about, whether it's the valuable ones or the Holy Grail, where in general are you able to find these? Is this something that you find in thrift stores? Are you obviously you've got a couple of them from eBay, the more important, the more impressive ones. Where you find is a pretty good source to get these if we're on the lookout to either build our own collection or find some that we want to resell.
Well, I'm gonna say that if you're just looking for common ones like the Halcyon and you just want it for the cool pictures and advertisement, you can get these probably at any thrift store. These actually, the one set came from Misty, and the other set was the colored set was off of eBay. Most of mine have come from eBay. Just like the Mahjong set and the Pagao set, those are all from eBay. The bacon lights are from eBay. I really don't think I have any that have come from a thrift store, but I do know that the thrift stores will have the house because they are probably one of the major brands. I do know that the thrift stores will have the house. I'm hearing stuff, but I don't know who that was.
No, that was me. Sorry.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I would, if you're, this one has really cool graphics on it also. Again, it's a Halcyon set. They seem to have the best pictures. And I would say the second best would be the Embossing Company. Because the Embossing Company made tons of dominoes. And obviously you saw all the different boxes I had. Everything from that long train one all the way to this quarter dominoes one. I just saw something on the back of here. Oh, the patents. They have the patents on the back also. So yeah, I would say eBay is probably going to be your main source for anything old. Graphics wise, you'll probably find them in the thrift store. I don't think I've ever seen anything other than like Halcyon or the Embossing Company at a thrift store.
I'll just say this one I found at it's one of those places that they do estate sale. They do closeouts for estates, and then they have a shop that anything that doesn't sell when they do the actual estate sale kind of goes into their store. So this was through effectively an estate sale, but it was one that hadn't sold in the actual estate sale. So I just picked this up. I actually just picked this up yesterday. So this is the newest one. And I would agree, from how I was trying to find them, this one I found on eBay. So this is Wholesome. So this was the one brand that you were talking about. And the box is very similar style to all the other Wholesome ones.
Yeah.
So that was one I was able to find. And then this one, I've talked about my favorite thrift store. They're like more traditional thrift store, but it's a mom and pop. And I actually found this one there. So it's a mixed bag, literally. So I will say, because I have never tried to collect these, I've never tried to build a collection, I will end up reselling all three of the sets that I have picked up. I will probably sell them in my live sales because they were, though, interesting to find. So it was kind of interesting.
There are a couple of sets on eBay right now that I have my eyes on. One is one from Poland, and I think it's either 1915 to 1920, I think. The other set is a Jamaican set, and they are just so cool because the back of them has like all the Jamaican colors and stuff on the back. They're really cool. But both of those sets, they want nearly, probably over $50 for. I haven't paid that much for a set yet. So
that's actually a good question. What is the most that you've paid for a set?
It's gonna be the Mahjong set was the one I paid the most for, and it was $45. But I knew where that came from because I bought it from the guy who carried it back.
Okay. One last question.
It's a little harder to spend that much money when you're looking at it online and you're like, do these people understand what a whole set is? I've sent 1 million questions to them. I'm only getting about half answered. So that means I won't be buying until I can get them all answered.
And this is something I can't believe we didn't cover, but do you actually play the dominoes then? Do you get these sets to actually use?
My husband is a big dominoes player, and it was because of him that this collection kind of started. Because we were at one of his coworkers' houses, and they pulled out. He had brought the dominoes game. It's downstairs. It's just 1 in a 10. It's a everyday set, and they were playing, and I was like, wow, dominoes. Okay. My dad used to play it all the time. He was a gambler, So I started looking them up on eBay, and I was like, oh, okay. And so that's what started the collection. And then it just blew up from there. So now I have, I haven't even counted how many sets I have here. Too many.
As we close out, I definitely want to thank you, but we had a request for meeting Mr. Bemos, who I do not know if that's your husband or if that's one of your 4 cats.
It's my husband, Brian. He probably has his headphones on. Brian, come here a second. All right, he's playing. He'll be right up.
Okay. I did not realize he was a thing. So everyone wants to meet Mr. Bemos. So
that's because my husband is a 6'4" Korean.
Okay.
With really long black hair. I tell him all the time I married him for his hair. We live in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. The bedroom and bathroom is actually the loft. So I'm upstairs, he's downstairs. Yes, I need you. He's coming.
Lynn Johnson just posted a comment, and this is one of those cases. I remember I used to run a retail store with my ex-wife, and we actually had a Mahjong set in a glass jar.
I want to meet you. Come here. Bathroom first, then he'll come over here.
Okay, elderly poodle evidently knows how to say hello in Korean, so she can chat him up.
He doesn't know Korean. Well, that's not true either. He says he doesn't know Korean. However, when he dreams, he speaks in Korean. He was 4 when he was adopted out.
Well, while he preps himself for making his appearance, I will once again thank you for joining us on the deep dive tonight. Apologize for taking up so much of your time. These don't normally run this long, but several questions, and it was very, very interesting, very entertaining. So appreciate you coming to us. If you do not already follow Laura, I'm not sure how active Laura is on her Instagram page, but you can follow her at Bemos_Mercantile. You can also follow me at Trusty Mercantile, which I just discovered I don't have a banner for that, so I'll give you my banner for the live sale. You don't have to email me, but my Instagram is THMercantile. You've already found me on YouTube. If you've gotten this far and you're not a subscriber, really would appreciate you going over, subscribe, hit the like button, comment on it, share it with your friends. And now we all know what Mr. and Mrs. Bemos. Okay, we see the hair.
Down.
Excellent. So we have the height and the hair. So it's exactly as advertised.
Yes, exactly as advertised.
All right. Well, thanks again, Laura, for joining me. Laura Bemos, look for her again on another live sale, I'm sure multiple times this week. And watch, I'm trying to put out a couple more content, some videos that I'm editing. And hopefully this week, if not, at least check out my next live sale. Will be Thursday night at 8 p.m. Here on this channel. And it will be a traditional standard live sale, no theme. And watch for my next deep dive with Kelly from Mossstone Story. Deep dives are always the second and fourth Sundays of the month. And so whatever that Sunday is, I forgot to look it up. So anyway, in the first one in August is Kelly, Mossstone Story Vintage with the little golden books. And the second one of the month will be a non-YouTuber who will be talking about swizzle sticks. So I've got some fun coming up in August. So again, thanks so much for joining me. Thanks for joining the chat. And thanks for putting your trust into Trusty Huckster. Have a great night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.